Hello everybody, it's me Ross and welcome to another edition of Meet the Opposition. This week I'm joined by Gary from the Stacey West Blog as Town take a trip to Lincoln City this weekend. Gary, thanks very much for joining me once again. You're on the League One lowdown, but I've got you back. It's League One action. Town take on Lincoln. Well, it's been a mixed bag season for you. We won't talk about us. We haven't won a game. We've got something in common though. We both was involved in a game where a team scored 5 goals. Luckily for you, your team scored 5. We conceded 5. How has your season been so far? You had a game midweek against Rotherham, a 1-1 draw. But overall, your thoughts on the season?
Yeah, it feels like it's just started in the last 2 games, to be honest, because much of our transfer business hadn't been done going into the season. We opened away at Gillingham, which is always a horrible game. You know, it's not a game of football there, is it? It's a fight and a battle when you play a Steve Evans side. Got a decent point, then we beat Fleetwood, and you thought, here we go, we're up and running. But we've been decimated by injuries, and I said the same thing a lot of the time last year as well, that this Lincoln City side would be brilliant if we didn't have injuries. When we went to Oxford, and we lost 2 on the bounce, narrowly to Bolton, to be fair. Decent side, could have gone either way. Wickham, we shot ourselves in the foot, silly goal. And then we went away to Oxford. We didn't have a striker. I mean, we've only got 2 recognised number 9s on our books, Tom Hopper and Dan Lundlew. That's it. Nobody else can traditionally play through the centre, Mcguire, Scully maybe. So when you go away and you've got no number 9, you've got 2-3 centre-halves injured, it was just a makeshift side. We were rolled over. I mean, we were 2-0 down within about 20 minutes, and Oxford aren't that good. You know, they're stagnating. They're not going anywhere. And then we got a bit of a break. Now, either side of the Oxford result, we got 2 good results in the Mickey Mouse Trophy against Manchester United's kids and Bradford City. Strong Bradford City side as well. Mauled them 3-0. We were outstanding that night. And then we had the break. Went to Cambridge, and we were sensational. I dare say that it's probably the best Lincoln City performance, certainly since we've been back in the Football League, if not I've ever seen. We were... You know, was threatening every time we went forward. It's no exaggeration to say that it could have been 6 or 7. And their keeper made a couple of great saves. And then I think probably brought down to earth a little bit against Rotherham. They will be in the top 6, if not the top 2. They're very good at what they do. They're very settled. You know, they've got a front 3, 2 of whom have played together 3 or 4 years on the bounce, I think, now in Ladapo and Smith. We matched them for 75 minutes. They were the better side, but a draw was a fair result. Then in the last 15 minutes, I think they had 14 shots on goal, and our keeper produced some amazing saves. So we've got to this point now where we're kind of stood on the edge, and you don't know quite where the season's going to go. So our game against Ipswich is, if we get a point, hopefully 3, then you've taken kind of 5 or 7 from the last 3 games. That's a decent haul. And let's be honest, from a Lincoln fan's point of view, Ipswich and Rotherham are 2 sides that you don't expect to beat, certainly not going into the season. So I think we're just gathering a little bit of momentum. If we can keep that going on Saturday, then I think we can perhaps start seeing a little bit of the Lincoln City of old. But it has been challenging. Deadline day, we missed out on our main target as well, which was pretty devastating. So we've gone into this part of the season probably a player light. We won't be doing a Doncaster and signing a free agent for 3 times as much as he could have commanded the day before either. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting few months. There's signs of real positive play from us, but then there are also some rudimentary defensive errors which just leave you scratching your head.
And it's a standard Town thing as well. A team who we have to play on the weekend is back in form and doing well. That normally doesn't, go well for Town. Let's talk about the Lincoln side then. You've name-checked a few players there. What is the possible starting 11? The team will go up below, but chuck out some names. The big talking point is Teddy Bishop going to be returning or taking on Town for the first time since joining Lincoln City this summer. What's he been like so far this season?
Yeah, we've seen Ted in fleeting moments. He came to us probably not as fit as he would like, because I think he'd only been training with under 23s, and if memory serves, had played in a friendly against Bury St Edmunds, and that was about it. So he wasn't fit when he arrived, like several of our players. He was one of the ones that was kind of missing, and he came in for a cup tie, scored a belter against Shrewsbury. You can see the boy's quality. He's got such style and panache on the ball. He owns the football when he gets it. It's kind of, he paints pictures with it almost. You know that, you Ipswich fans. But as yet, we haven't seen it on a regular basis because he hasn't been able to get into the side and stay fit. For instance, he missed, I think, the Oxford game. We may have played the Oxford game and come off, and then played against Cambridge and came off injured on kind of 50-odd minutes and replaced by Lewis Fiorini. So we're waiting for him to get to full fitness. I don't think there's problems with his injuries as he had with you a couple of seasons ago. I think it's little niggles and knocks. I think we'll start seeing the best of Ted Bishop in October. But the overriding feeling is that once we get him fit and playing on a regular basis, he'll probably be as important for us as George Grant was last season, which is a big shout. So you got the team scrolling through there. A couple of other big talking points. First of all, across the back, we signed TJ Ioma permanently after he had been on loan last season. He didn't play against Rotherham. Lewis Monsma did. I thought Monsma was bossed a little bit by Michael Smith. He got the wrong side a couple of times. A little bit naive. I think long term, Ioma probably ends up playing centre half for us. He can play left or right. He's right-footed predominantly. But our regular left-sided centre-back Joe Walsh is out till October, so that may change. It may be Monsma in there for one of those two, but certainly Regan Poole is one of the first names on the team sheet at right back. And Jamie Robson, rumoured £250,000 signing from Dundee United on deadline day, replaced Teo Eden, who went for £500,000. So it was kind of one in, one out. Still to see, really what he can do, but he's played 2 lots of 90 minutes and looks solid enough. Not going to talk about Liam Bridcut. He's just brilliant. He plays. He's the heartbeat. That's all there is to it. It's the dynamic ahead of him. So he plays a holding role, and then we tend to play probably 2 midfielders a little further ahead. I've plumped for Bishop and Sorensen. We've touched on Ted Bishop. I think he will be desperate to play. I think there's always that kind of former team bounce, isn't there? So he's going to be probably a big player for us. Last Sorensen. He's not convinced everybody as yet, but Michael does seem to like him. We signed him from Stoke over the summer. Again, stylish player, can pick a pass, that sort of thing. I'm just not sure of the dynamic between him and our regular other central midfielder, Conor McGrandles. McGrandles is likely to be injured. The only other player who might come into that is Lewis Fiorini. Now, he's a personal favourite of mine, on loan from Manchester City, 2 goals in 2 games. But he plays with an arrogant swagger, which I like. He reminds me a lot of Joe Morrell, a player that your fans may be aware of. Obviously, you missed out on him, I think, in the transfer window. He's got that kind of box-to-box mentality. He'll get forward, he'll get shots off. He's going to break into the side. It's just whether this is the time he does it or not. Being interesting if he does, because he's not played with Bishop as yet, I don't think. Up top, Tom Hopper is what he is. He's what we call a false 9, isn't he? In this day and age, he's a striker that doesn't score goals or have shots, and that's not a slur on him. But he's, all his work's done out of the area. He's winning headers. He's a first line of defence. Chris Mcguire made his first start for us this week. Really good footballer. I mean, again, someone I'm sure you've come up against before. Not fully fit, not quite as impactful, I think, as he could be at the moment. But I think he'll start over Hakiba Delican. And Anthony Scully, he's made the headlines. 8 goals, 9 games, 5 goal involvements, 3 of them assists, 2 of them goals against Cambridge. Look, he's not a winger. He's not a 9. He's probably not even a 10. But when he's doing what he's doing at the moment, he has to play. He's been our star man since the beginning of the season. I think he's had nearly 5 times as many shots as anybody else. He's a real danger man. And if you've got a right back who's a little bit unsure, or a left back who can get turned, he'll do it all day long. I mean, the lad George Williams at Cambridge, he buttered him and had him on toast for breakfast. The kid couldn't do anything with him. So there's a lot of promise in that Lincoln side, but it isn't the same sort of Lincoln side as we finished last season with. It is a work in progress. We have had to do more of a rebuild than we expected.
And that was what my next question was going to be, the player to watch. And Scully sounds like he's going to be the player to watch. He's in form. What sort of game can we expect then? Lincoln City Town have always had different interesting score lines. I still have scars from the 5-3 defeat a couple of seasons ago. What can you expect from this? Is it going to be a tight game? Is it going to be loads of goals, or what do you reckon?
Well, the statistics hint at there being loads of goals. I think you've conceded 2 or more in every league game you've played, but there's only 1 game where you haven't scored. So that would suggest that you're a both teams to score side. We have got goals in us. Obviously, a couple against Fleetwood, 5 against Cambridge, 6 in 2 AFL Trophy games, 2 at Shrewsbury. But sometimes we also look shot shy. And Bolton, Oxford, and we did score against Oxford, to be fair, but Bolton, Oxford, and Wickham, yeah, we didn't look fantastic going forward. I fancy it to be an open game. I think both teams tried to play football. What I'll term it the right way, and if any Gillingham fans are watching, they'll shoot me down for that, because they think that hoofing it long is a way, and we got success with it in the past. But for me, football should be played on the deck. You play in triangles. You look to move through the thirds. You look to however you choose to play it, and I think both teams, both Ipswich and Lincoln, do like to do that. So I think it will be one for the neutral. I think both defences have got an error in them. We certainly have. We've got an error a game in us, without a doubt. Every single game there is a misplaced pass that leads to a chance. We haven't kept a clean sheet at all this season. And looking at your array of forwards, I mean, looking earlier, I think you've got 8 sort of attacking players who would start in any other team in this division. And that's even talking about the likes of Caden Jackson, who I know has not been a favourite of Paul Cook, Louis Barry, players like that. So, you've got goals in you, we've got goals in us, but we can both concede as well. So, it's going to be a great game, as long as you're not an Ipswich or a Lincoln fan.
Yeah. And the final question, as always, prediction. Well, you're saying it's going to be goals. I bet it's going to be 0-0. We need a win. You guys probably want to keep your form going. What do you reckon then?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually with you. All the stats point to goals, so 0-0 is probably what it'll be. I've got a really good record with predicting. That's not being arrogant. I was in our Legends Lounge in front of a crowd and said 1-1 the other night. Got it spot on. I said a big win against Cambridge. Got it right. I think this could be 2-2. I think it'll be a draw. I think I've said quite vocally to a lot of Lincoln fans, Ipswich will be in the top 6 this season, in my eyes. I think come January, the league will still be close enough that you can put a run together. Not necessarily, I don't necessarily see it with Paul Cook, but I think Ipswich are a really, really dangerous side. I think this is a good time for us to play you. I think it's a good time for you to play us, and I just think that neither team's going to get the advantage.
And 2-2 has been the goal line of choice at home for Towns. We've drawn 3 of the games 2-2, so that is our scoreline of choice. And one last thing, Lincoln away day for Town. Any pubs, anything particularly for fans to look out for when we go back to Lincoln?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we've got a really good atmosphere around the ground. So there's fan zones now around the ground. There's pouring points on the outside. So although there's kind of one at the away end and one at the home end, they're not particularly segregated either. So there is a really good feel. I'm not sure which pubs are away pubs. I know travelling football fans love to go to a Wetherspoons. Do not go to the Ritz on the High Street. It is the worst pub I've been to. We're boycotting it now under kind of duress. There's some good pubs on the High Street, but I'm not sure how many of them are away friendly. So my recommendation would almost certainly to be down to the ground, get around the fan zone, and soak up the atmosphere there.
Well, brilliant. Well, Gary, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, do you know what? It's nice to have a rivalry with a big football team. My entire life has been spent having rivalry with Grimsby Town and Scunthorpe United, and I actually feel now, over the last 5 years, we've got one with a former UEFA Cup winner, which by association kind of elevates us. So looking forward to the game.
Top man, me too. It's going to be a big one. Let's look forward to it this Saturday. Thanks once again for watching Meet the Opposition.